So picking up our study of Romans with chapter 1, verse 2, we read, which he promised beforehand through his prophets in the Holy Scriptures. Now, if we don't have a good understanding of who the prophets are and what the Holy Scriptures are that Paul is referencing here, we already are missing a very serious part of the argument Paul is developing in this letter. When Paul writes here about the prophets and the Holy Scriptures, he's talking about the Old Testament. He is not talking about the Bible as a whole. Remember that by this point in time, the New Testament is still being written, and some of it has yet to even be written. The prophets are not New Testament individuals. They are Old Testament figures who relate very specifically to the nation of Israel. So the prophets and the scriptures that Paul talks about here, he means the Old Testament writings or the Jewish scriptures which contain the prophetic books. Now, it might seem as though I'm making a mountain out of a molehill at this point, but pay very close attention to what Paul is saying. Go back to verse 1, where Paul has said that he is set apart for the gospel of God. This leads right into verse 2, where Paul says, which he promised beforehand through his prophets in the Holy Scriptures. Now, this little relative pronoun, ho, translated which, turns out to be incredibly important. For you students interested in biblical Greek, never underestimate the power of a pronoun or a conjunction, what you might call the connective tissues. They are often the keys to good interpretation. And when you look at the relative pronoun here, which begins this verse, what we find Paul saying is that the gospel he is set apart to preach was actually promised in the Old Testament. In other words, Paul isn't preaching anything new. He's simply preaching the gospel which has already been promised. He is drawing a very important connection between the gospel and the Old Testament, and that continuity between the two is very important for this letter, because the issue that Paul is going to be addressing has to do with what certain people in Rome are saying Paul does with the Old Testament. So already in these first two verses, Paul is building his argument, and that'll become a little clear as we continue to work through the letter, and we'll pick up our study with verse 3 in the next video.